This episode of the Run Radio podcast is sponsored by guest Robert Gust of Rise Rental Management. Welcome back to the Run Radio podcast. This business features Rise Rental Management. My guest is Robert Gust. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
So tell me a little bit about the background. What brought you to be an entrepreneur that you are now? How you, this path that took you to the point where you have several people collaborating with you and you're networking and you're doing so many things.
Yeah. So, man, it goes way back. So early on, my story is actually similar to like the Rich Dad, Poor Dad story, if you will. So I was blessed to have an amazing stepfather in my life at a really early age, about 9 years old. And, in contrast to like my biological father, who unfortunately just wasn't there, picked an alternative lifestyle and, that sort of thing. So I had that as a contrast to kind of see. And it was about 1995, my stepdad started his own business. Before that, he was a framer making about $8 an hour, And so I watched him start this business, and within a year, he was just so proud of of what he had built, and within a year's time, So I saw him go from earning that wage to building this business, now grossing over like $1 million his first year, and he was just really excited,
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that I was blessed to see and also be a part of, and it really just lit a fire for me as far as that entrepreneurial type spirit, And so with that said, the spirit all but died, really, because I ended up going to work for the state of Oregon. We actually relocated from Oregon to Missouri 3 years ago, my family. And that was as a result of COVID.
Yeah.
So, a bit of a blessing in disguise for us. In Oregon, my wife and I both work for the state of Oregon full time and doing really well for ourselves with respect to, that sort of work. And COVID hits and they move us out into our home office. And, the kids are actually learning in home with us as we're trying to do our jobs. And it was just one of those things that went on for about 2 years. And by the time, it lasted a little bit longer than that. But anyways, you know how COVID was. And in Oregon, it was one of those things that was interesting because out here in Missouri, it didn't affect the people like it did in Oregon, right? As far as like how tight they locked everything down, the mask mandate, not going anywhere, the no socializing, the social distancing, all the things. And so 2 years of that in our home, just miserable, if you will. And so I was talking to a buddy of mine who had moved out here to southern Missouri, Nigel Geisinger. He moved out and was doing pretty well for himself, was not flipping, but doing using the Burr method to buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat method, if you will. And he was buying up Jonesboro, parts of Oklahoma City, Birmingham, Tennessee, Kentucky. So he was all over. And I was watching him do this, and it kind of, reignited that fire I had because I always wanted to be in real estate. It was one of those things. I saw my dad do what he was doing. He was a roofer is what he ended up doing. He started a business doing that. And my goal was to always, collect the real estate, work on the real estate, keep it up, rent it out, and kind of hold it. And saw what Nigel was doing out here in Missouri. And he said, I got on the phone with him and he says, "Hey, Robert, if this is something that you really want to do and you're looking at potentially, a career change, moving your family across the United States, come on out, check it out. And if you like it, then, maybe I can help you out, get you started or something." So my wife and I go back to Oregon my wife and I have a discussion about the phone call, and she's already on board with moving because she's pretty sick of the political environment in Oregon. And so, and we were knee deep in it working for the state of Oregon too. It was an interesting place to work during those times, but we decided we're going to fly out to Missouri. We spent 3 days in Missouri, and down on Table Rock Lake. This was November, and this was would have been November of 2021. And so we come out, we decide, hey, we can make this place home, and we can maybe start this investment business, or this real estate investment business that I've been planning on starting all these years, but kept putting off. So we decide, yeah, it's a beautiful place, rolling hills, green trees, and we kind of fell in love with the warmth out here and all the sunshine, and we came went back home, put a plan together, and just a few months later, we were here in Missouri, and we were able to actually, through COVID, they threatened to basically fire us over the vaccine. So it was like, okay, you guys are going to get these vaccines, or else you could potentially lose your job over it. And so we had that discussion with our supervisors, both of us, and we said, okay, well, that's never been a requirement ever in the 18 years that I've been here, and it's not something we're going to do. So what we're going to do is you're going to have to give us those religious exemptions. They gave us those. We filled them out. Once those were approved, we actually requested to move our jobs from the state of Oregon out here to Missouri and relocate, and they allow that to happen. So it was like I said, COVID was a blessing in disguise for us. It allowed me to get out here, as miserable as it was, allowed us to get out here, get started in real estate. We purchased a 10-plex upon arrival, had got that under contract, bought that out here, started buying up properties, and within 9 months, we had a 20-door real estate portfolio. And I walked away from my state job. So, long story short, there's a lot of ups and downs, I guess, in between the time that we landed and the finishing of that 20th door, if you will, in Missouri. We didn't know anybody out here. It was a struggle, obviously. There was a lot of contractors that were kind of fly-by-night contractors that would come and take your money and not finish the job or do shoddy work. So it was a challenge, but we got through it, got that done, and then ultimately we ended up joining a mastermind called Limitless Society.
Okay.
And Limitless Society was I don't know if you're familiar with Keaton Hoskins from the Diesel Brothers.
Mm-mm.
Anyways, he was on Discovery Channel for a number of years, and he decided to start a mastermind that he coined, Limitless Society. So I jump in Limitless Society. I'm new in business. I'm new in real estate. Really have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm doing the best I can because of the situation, that we were put in Oregon. With somebody hanging my job over my head, saying, "Hey, if you don't do this thing, then you could lose that income," and I didn't like the sound of that. And so anyway, we're out here doing our thing. I get involved with Limitless Society and kind of travel all over the place. And I'm mentored by this guy. And long story short, he's not a real estate investor, so that didn't end all that well. But what it did do was teach me a lot of valuable lessons. And so just kind of grinding through it without really any support system, if you will, out here, and making it happen is what we did. So a little over 3 years, and what we've done is we've built a $5 million real estate portfolio, and we've taken it all under our own management
Mm-hmm.
uh, as a result of challenges that we've had in the past with other property managers and things of that nature. So.
What's it been like to see it grow when you didn't feel like you had that support? Where did you had to probably go somewhere to get some kind of support because it's tough being an entrepreneur without any help.
Oh man, it was one of the most challenging things that I've ever done, to be completely honest with you, because not only are we here, I'm a new entrepreneur. I'm just getting started. Um, I have a very limited knowledge, of real estate investments. I had a
Mm-hmm.
property in Oregon that was a rental, but it was my first home that I had purchased,
Oh,
and so
okay.
we turned that into a rental. And then also what we did while we lived in Oregon, just to kind of prepare us for where we were at. Obviously, we had good jobs; they paid really well, and we tend to sacrifice a lot of the material things that most people would go out and buy. and we would purchase more home than we could afford. And
Okay.
we would do a house hacking method where you live in it 2 years, you sell it, and then you take that gain tax free, that capital gain, if you've been there for more than 2 years. So we did that 3 times, and that's what helped kind of fund us, coming out here. But as far as doing that on my own, it was really just leaning on my wife, because she was really the only support system I had out here. And it was just digging deep. And really the reason why is because we didn't have any other options. I had literally walked away from a career which I thought I was going to retire from,
Mhm.
um, and obviously the retirement, the medical, the dental, the PERS, all the things. And so I did. My back was against the wall, and I really just didn't have an option. And so whatever it took to get the job done, we ended up in situations where we had challenges with contractors, had to fire them, find somebody else to come in, figure that out financially, and all the things that go with it. But really, it's just the commitment to go and actually accomplish the goal that you're out to accomplish. And a lot of people will give up. I didn't have any option, so
Yeah.
it was one of those things where I just went all in.
So explain the difference between rise rental and then Hollis.
Oh, so Hugloss Homes. So
Hugloss.
so let me talk about the name of the Hugloss. It's an interesting name
Yeah.
because it actually the name is a nickname of my wife's late uncle.
Okay.
So his name was Douglas. She had a nickname for him. She called him Hugloss.
Ah,
The first property that we bought was on Douglas in, here in Springfield, and so she wanted to name the LLC Hugloss. So that's Hugloss. So now Hugloss is the property holdings company,
okay.
and then I also, so what we do is we actually we acquire the properties. Hugloss is the owner of that property, and then we have subs that we bring in. We rehab them ourselves with our subs, and then we go and once it's finished, we have it appraised. Obviously, we get renters in it, have it appraised. They look at the monetary value as far as what's it bringing in on a monthly basis, what are the expenses, and basically what we do is we buy, we rehab, we rent it, we refinance it, and we keep it on the Hugloss side.
Okay.
Now once it's finished with the rehab portion, so it's ready to go, rent ready. Now we pass it off to Rise Rental Management.
Ah,
Here you go, the management side. Now we start listing and taking photo, getting it clean, getting it listed, the photos, all the things, and start taking applications on them.
okay. And so I'm learning a lot about rise rental, just rental properties in general.
Yeah.
First of all, the first thing that comes to my mind is either it's storage or it's duplexes, but it's so much more than that. Can you kind of explain what it's like for all the stuff that you really do?
Yeah, so I mean, I started with not much. So it was just the idea that like, hey, the wonderful thing about where we live is you can start at any age. I'll be 44 on November 1st. I've been doing this for 3 years. We've acquired $5 million in real estate. There's a good monthly income coming in off those, and honestly, it's interesting to see how that's happened in such little time because here we are. I've invested 18 and a half years of my life at the state of Oregon, and I'm making 105 grand a year, and I'm topped out. And the best thing I can do now is, and I got a story about this too, is, take their leadership academy program and then maybe become a director of a program and ride it out until retirement, and that was the plan until COVID hit. Um, but yeah, no, what did you say again? I'm sorry.
Just there's so many things involved. It's not just when you think rental, some people's mind might go storage units. Other
Yes.
people might
Okay.
think, oh, it's duplexes or an apartment, but it's a lot more than just one thing.
It is really. I mean, it's really what it boils down to is taking a piece of property, whether it be a vacant lot, a commercial building, a strip mall, a duplex on up to 300 units, and then adding value to that property, right? And when you do that, obviously, then you go back to the bank and you get an appraisal on that property. And the cool thing about what we do, and we have a little bit of all of it. So I have duplex. I have a single family house that's converted to a duplex on up to a 23 unit apartment complex. And then I also have a 96 unit storage facility. that we bought on an owner carried contract that we're still rehabbing right now. So yeah, I mean it's really just like, okay, what deals are available? Let's underwrite those deals. What does that look like on paper? We'll run numbers a few different ways and determine if there's any money in it. We need to maximize. So we add value, maximize the income potential, and then go back to the bank. And then when you pull anything over what you put into it out in a loan, again, that's an income that's not taxable because it's loan based.
Mhm.
See, so that's our method. That's our madness. And really, we're such a young company. Our experience is pretty limited, but for the most part, we're going to the cheapest thing we can find. On average, I'm buying properties at about 30,000 bucks a door, and then we go in there and we rehab them.
What makes Rise Rental different than any other property management company?
Well, I would just say that as an investor, that's one of the pain points I think in owning properties is having somebody else or a third party manage your properties. And so what I bring to the table is essentially that experience that I've hired these property managers. I know what it's like. I see the income, I see the expense, and I just know that there's a lot of room for improvement. So it's Rise is essentially by investors for investors, if you will. So we're going to do our best to save you as much money as we can while taking care of the tenant. And that's really what sets us apart, I think. And we do what we say. We if you're gonna pay us to go out and do maintenance,
Hmm.
we'll send out Hoogloss, my subs. Those guys do the work. I check it myself. I make sure it gets done. You're not going to find that at a lot of these places. There's no quality assurance. They'll say they did something but didn't really do it. You'll get charged for it, that sort of thing. And pretty soon you don't have any. They're spending that income that you would normally get to put in the bank.
Let's talk about tenants. I know that tenants can be wonderful and they can also be a thorn in your side for sure.
Yeah,
But when you give all you can give to a tenant and you make their life something they didn't know it could be, I'm sure that is just magical for you. You feel like you know what you're doing, you're put in the right place, right time. What is it like to build the best experience for tenants?
yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing feeling because we spend a lot of money, we put a lot of time, energy, and effort into it, and I'm not one of those guys that if there's something wrong, I'm fixing it kind of thing. I mean, and it also boils down to appreciation. If you're looking if your asset's in terrible condition, it just doesn't appreciate like it should. That, and also if somebody's paying you to rent one of your units or a house, if it's not livable, honestly, you should be ashamed of yourself. And that's the way I see it. And I think Tish
I
Davis.
do.
So Tish works for me. She runs Rise Rental Management, and she is really what makes Rise Rental Management pretty amazing. So we actually have a really good relationship with all the tenants, which is really cool. And then when the bad ones happen, we take care of them immediately. We don't allow that stuff to continue. The drugs and the riffraff and the things like that. So we take care of it immediately. But most of my tenants, they love me because I'm on the job site just about every day. We're taking something that really probably should have been condemned, uh, and people shouldn't have been allowed. In fact, the property that we did in Buffalo did have a stop work order on it by the city because the current owners weren't taking care of some issues. So
Oh.
we bought it, went in to talk to the city. Yeah, and we go in and it's brand new when we're finished.
Mhm.
Inside and out, top to bottom, whatever needs done, we do it. And then we're able to actually go to fair market rent, feel good about it, providing a good quality living environment. Clean, pest free, all brand new, and the tenants are happy. They love it. Because most of the time at that lower income level, I mean, it's some of those places that they rent are
Yeah,
questionable. Yeah.
yeah. And I have talked to Tish and she feels so good when she can help move a family into a clean home and bring their pet. And if anybody is wanting to maybe do the property management side of it and make an impact like Tish does in these people's lives, what would you suggest? How do they get involved? What kind of credentials do they need?
Well, I would just say, just, bottom line is it's showing empathy for humans,
Yeah.
It's just terrible. Well, I mean, so I do know that people have different living standards, and that is often the case with, this sort of living situation, low income living, and things like that. But, it's interesting how, showing a little empathy, having conversations with these people, getting to know them, and sometimes you can really help them in cleaning up their life
Hmm.
in ways that most wouldn't even care to spend a minute to talk to them. But they all know me by name. Some of them have my phone number, and they call me and text me, and they tell me if there's any problems, because they know that I want to take care of them, and it's just they're happier there.
Yeah.
But you mean as far as like somebody that wants to get involved in property
Yeah.
management?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, especially with our entry level kind of investments, they're a lot of times in the C and D neighborhoods. If you want to talk about the different grades, we could get into that. But they're neighborhoods that are rough. That there's not a lot of money to go in and do the work that needs to be done. Blighted homes and things like that. So depending on your level of you got to have some thick skin doing the kind of stuff that we do. There's a lot. I mean, if you go into some of these places prior to us touching them, it's there's bugs, there's fleas, there's bed bugs, there's roaches, there's from that on up. I
Yeah.
mean, some of these places uh, are beautiful,
Hmm.
and rent ready, and that's different. But you really got to have some empathy for these people, and you got to be stern with them, obviously, and treat them a little bit like a child. you
Yeah.
know and Tish is really good at that. If there's problems, she'll take care of it. She's like the mother hen, and they're like, okay, yes
Yeah.
ma'am, we'll take
Yeah.
care of that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What do you see coming change wise in the next 1 to 3 years for Rise Rental? What would you like to see?
I would just like to continue to grow Rise, and become known for just being a quality rental management company in town. There's a ton of them out there, and
Hmm.
you don't. I have friends that have rental management companies in town, but the reality is just to continue to kind of to grow it, and provide some sort of benefit to the community out here. And the other thing that I think we bring that a lot of them don't is the customer service aspect, because Tish, she will spend 45 minutes on the phone with one person talking through the application process, and she's super nice about it, very helpful, gets you everything you need timely, does what she says she will. That's one thing that you're going to get with other property managers, or you're going to get here, that you might not get with others.
Hmm.
But just kind of steady growth and continue to do what we're doing. My goal ultimately was not to manage other people's properties.
Yeah.
Tish wanted to get her broker's license. I said, great idea. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And then with that came the opportunity to now, we could run real estate through here if we want to do real estate deals. We got the broker's license, so we are a brokerage, and bring other clients in to manage their properties. But really, my goal is focused on Hoogloss and building that portfolio. Um, you know, in the end, I'd like to have somewhere around 1,500 doors, and then I think maybe I could breathe a little. But that's the goal, and that's a long way off.
Yeah.
I think we started out with the one rental in Oregon, and now we have 50 doors and then the 96 storage units, and it's proven to be a challenge. There's a lot of work associated with real estate and the maintenance and all the things that go with it, but we do have a good quality team, and we don't plan on slowing down anytime soon. So
What is one of your biggest daily challenges?
biggest daily challenge is always going to be people,
People?
communication. The people that work for you, that's going to be the biggest challenge. That's what I've found, is just being able to get everybody on the same page, under trying to get everybody. I'm in a position where I'm building something new.
Yeah.
I'm not all that experienced at being a boss or a leader, or
Hmm.
running companies, but here I am running two companies. We've got multiple employees. We've got Rise, we've got Hoogloss. So, in myself, also one of my biggest challenges every day because I'm learning, new stuff every single day, it seems like. So it's a challenge, the learning aspect. And yeah.
A lot of entrepreneurs have this feeling several times a day as, oh my gosh, what have I done? What have I done? Do you feel
Yeah.
that quite often?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's cycles in business, right? It's like we're having some great times, and then next thing you know, it's like, okay, stress level is beyond what I can cope with at the moment, and it typically for me tends to be, when we're towards the end of a project. I am, looking at getting the appraisal, money's getting really tight, and people still want paychecks, and it's
Yeah.
like, and so it does get really stressful. And then all the things that just happen with real estate every day. Now it's just like no big deal for me, but like my wife is still pretty new at this, and she overhears us talking about some of the issues, and she's like, "What do you mean?" And it's a
Yeah.
huge deal for her. I'm like, no, no, it's okay. This happens all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. How do
Don't
you
worry
deal
about
with
the bed.
that? I know
Uh,
some people are able to, take a walk, go do some exercise, or they meditate, or what's your method for managing that chaos?
well, I did back in April, started going to the gym, and it
Yeah.
has been huge. I mean, it's really helped me with the stress levels and stuff like that. But I am physically exhausted first
Yeah.
thing in the morning. It feels like,
Yeah.
so I'm not getting any younger. That's not easy
Yeah.
to get up and go every day, but that has helped with the stress. Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the biggest things with businesses, entrepreneurship is tenacity and resilience, and it seems like you're doing a pretty good job. Anything else we need to know about Rise Rental?
Well, just keep on the lookout for us. If you're looking for a house or an apartment in Springfield, Missouri, we can get you lined out whether we have it or I send you to somebody else, one of our partners. Um, so if you're looking for something like that, also if you find any properties that might be available for sale, anything like a duplex or beyond, feel free to reach out to me. We often are cash buyers and can close deals within a couple weeks. And yeah, we just you know and if one of my biggest things is I like to be able to help people that want to go out and learn to be entrepreneurs or that have that drive or that ambition because it's just one of those things. Like, just for example, I moved my whole family out here. My kids were pretty young. My daughter just turned 16. My other daughter just turned 14, and I got a 20-year-old son that'll be 21 in December. And there, we move out here, and obviously it was a big shock, culture shock, and everything. But my daughter, she decides to apply for a job at Seven Brew, and they asked her, one of the questions was, who do you look up to and why? And
Yeah.
so her answer was me. She goes, "I said you, Dad," and I'm like, "Really, you did?" So it was one of those things like, okay, so these kids are watching me. So
Yeah.
that's probably the biggest
That
drive,
feels good.
factor to show that you could go basically at 30, or I'm sorry, 40 years old, 41 years old, go all in on your dreams, and don't take no for an answer. And if your kids see that happen, what does that do for them? And so it's been a huge blessing in my life. The way that doors have opened for us, it's been very faith driven. So it's been a blessing. And, God's open doors that have just, you know, I'm just in awe over it, to be honest, how everything has fallen in place. Also, I'm working on a book. I do have a copy of it. I'll share it with
Yeah.
you. It's called Gust of Win, what it takes to shatter limiting beliefs and embrace success in real estate. That's there.
Oh, how long did that take you? I didn't know about the book. You have to come back and talk about the book.
Yeah, so this is not a finished product yet. It is
Okay.
published, but do not buy it.
Oh,
Um, they have to publish it in order to get me a copy for the final edits, and that's where I'm
okay.
at. So I'm in the
Gotcha.
final editing stage.
Okay.
But it's like I said, it's similar to the Rich Dad Poor Dad story, but it's my real life story.
Okay.
Um, and talks a little bit about what it takes to go out and build that dream. It basically any age. So that's what it's about.
All right. When you get those edits done, you come back. We'll talk about it.
Awesome.
We'll talk about the writing process because I like talking. I'm guessing, did you independently publish?
So no, I didn't. This is actually, so this book is a series of many, many interviews, and so
Okay.
it was It was written by a friend of mine, Mike Fallett, with Dream Starters Publishing, and
Okay.
so they have a service where they help you with the writing aspect of it, and you go through a series of hours of questioning, and so that's how we did it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to know more about it. Come back and talk about it. Tell
Okay.
people where they can go to connect with you to talk about all the properties and leads that you mentioned just a minute ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Robert Gust on Facebook, and it's at Robert C. Gust on Instagram. I do post everything we do. You can go there on Instagram and look at all of our projects, start to finish. And yeah, we really enjoy what we do. It's been a blessing, and I appreciate you allowing me to get on here and chat.
No problem. Thanks. And come back. And
All
you
right.
can follow along too on all platforms. Link over from runradio.net. Thank you.
Thank
This episode of the Run Radio podcast is sponsored by guest Robert Gust of Rise Rental Management.